sunrise. It's shattering the dark of night. Your presence is a paradise to our hearts. Oh, you're filling all the world with light. You're making every wrong thing right. You're waking up the dead to life in your love. God, you always break through. There's nothing that your love can't do. Your love is on the veil. Your love can never fail. Your love is making all things new. Love is an eternal fire. Oh, a jealous and a pure desire, strong enough to be the sacrifice that set us free. Oh, and you have taken all our sins away. You have risen and you won the day. You have broken every bond and chain in your love. God, you're always breaking through. There's nothing that your love can't do. Your love is on the veil. Love can never fail. Your love is making all things new. God, you're always breaking through the dark, breaking into lives and healing hearts. Love is on the veil. Love can never fail. Love is making all things new. And so we lift up one voice. We lift up one voice. We sing
And
we shout for joy.
come on. For now we are yours. Yes, our hearts are yours. You ransomed us with your blood.
God, you always break through. There's nothing that your love can't do. Your love is torn the veil. Your love can never fail. Your love is making all things new. God, you always breaking through the dark, breaking into lives and healing hearts. Your love is torn the veil. Your love can never fail. Your love is making all things new. In the middle of the fire, when everything is embers, and my heart remembers, you are here with me. In the middle of the storm, when everything gets scattered, oh, my heart will not be shattered. But you are here with me. Hey, whenever I call, whenever I call out your name, your answer always is the same. Oh, this truth comes and it sets me free. This truth, it comes and it sets me free. That you are here, here with me. in the middle of the battle. This song will be my war cry, so my heart cannot deny you are here with me. In the middle of the wilderness, surrounded by loneliness, where my soul cannot find rest, you are here with me. Whenever I call out your name, your answer always is the same. This truth, it comes, it sets me free. You are here, you're here with me. Whenever I call out your name, your answer always is the same. This truth that comes, it sets me free. You are here, you're here with me. Whenever I call out your name, oh, your answer always is the same. This truth that comes, it sets me free. Yeah. You are here, you're here with me. God, we're so grateful for your great love for us. James wrote in his letter, he said that every good and perfect gift comes down from you. You're the Father of lights. There's no shadow of, no even hint of turning in you or changing your mind. Your answer is always the same when we call out to you, God. Thank you so much for that. Amen. Well, can you believe it is late October already? And as the Charlie Brown special that has been scheduled will inform you, it is almost time for trick-or-treating. So I got a question for you. You can turn and ask a couple people. Do you have a favorite Halloween candy? And if not, do you have a candy that you remember stealing out of your kids' supply? Maybe you even kind of just liked it. But ask the person next to you, meet a couple people, say hi, be friendly. Go for it. Hey, thanks for joining us this weekend here at Terra Nova. Now, one of the reasons Halloween candy becomes so important is because we've got this great event that we do every year. It's coming up next Saturday night. It's called Trunk or Treat. You should sign up and decorate your car and hand out candy for our kids. You should invite neighbor kids. We've got games. We've got some sort of a costume parade, which just sounds like amazing. And I dare some of you to dress your dog up and enter him in that parade. I don't think that's sanctioned. So, hey, when you came in today, you should have gotten a program. Inside that program is a Connect card. Fill that out sometime during the service. If you're watching us online, also fill it out. This is a great way for us to connect, know what's going on in your life. We have a prayer team that prays for the requests. And so fill that out sometime during the service. And it's just a great weekend. We're going to be, as I said, celebrating communion a little bit later. So if you didn't grab communion elements, you can make your way right now to the back of the room if you're here in person and grab those. That way you'll be ready when we get there. Hey, just something I want to let you know about that we've been doing is this serve brochure
that we've talked about for a few weeks. And many of you have signed up, and thank you so much if you have. But this is filled with great opportunities to serve and to volunteer around Terra Nova this fall. And so this week, I sat down with the head of our guest services team, also called our greeters team, and asked him about some of the things that make that team a great opportunity to serve in. Check it out.
Hey guys, my name's Steve. I'm the lead for the Terra Nova guest services team. And as you all know, Terra Nova is known for being a very welcoming place. If you talk to people that have been here a long time, or even people that might be here fairly new, one of the things that you'll hear very often is that the thing that drew them to Terra Nova was the welcoming environment when they walked through the doors. And that's kind of what guest services is about. While we do a lot of different tasks and different things around the church, the main thing that we're trying to do is to build an environment where people feel welcome and comfortable. If that sounds good to you, we would love to have you on the guest services team. A couple of the other reasons why you might want to join guest services: it's a really easy entry into serving. You might not want to do a ton of commitment at this point. You might not feel comfortable with that, but you do want to kind of dip your toes into the water. And this is a great way to do that. You serve at the service that you already attend, and you show up a little bit early, and then you serve throughout that service, and that's the level of commitment. Another thing that is very beneficial about joining guest services is it gives you an opportunity to meet a lot of different people in the community, particularly the people that you come and sit with in service. And that's not true of a lot of different serving opportunities within the ministries around our church. This is a unique one in the sense that you meet every single person that walks through the door. And that's a great thing. And so if those things sound good to you, we would love to have you on the guest services team.
Hey, so that's Steve, great guy, great leader of this team. You'll see it here in the serve menu as the greeters team. And like Steve said, this is a great entryway. You just serve at the service you're already attending, and you just show up a little early. And there are a few other teams that are similar to that. A lot of them here are under this heading of starters, but they're the reset team, the team that gets this room ready after, like tonight, we'll have to get this room ready for the 9:30. After the 9:30, the room gets reset for the 11 o'clock, hence the name Reset Team. So that's another great entryway. I'm already attending the 5 o'clock service. Great, 5 o'clock reset team. You just stay a few minutes late. The barbecue team, another great way to serve that's very easy entry. Barbecues happen just from time to time, so they're not an every week or every other week commitment like many of our other serve opportunities. So I want to encourage you as we're winding down in this season to sign up for serving for the next few months, to sign up. Don't miss an opportunity. You can find one team in this brochure, in this menu, to sign up for and try it out. Maybe you've never tried serving before. This is the time to do it. Maybe you did serving before, and kind of when everything got mixed around and shut down and all of that for COVID, you kind of faded away from the team that you were serving on. Now is a great time to reconnect. A lot of our teams are in great need, if I'm honest, with needing some new and re-upping team members. So please take an opportunity on your way, maybe not on your way home, but after you get home tonight or this week in the next few days, and find a great place to serve. You can also sign up online. There's a link on the Terra Nova app as well. So thanks again for being here this week. We are going to dive in right now to part 3 of Revelation.
Well, hey, welcome to Terra Nova. How you guys doing? Doing good. If you're watching online, thanks for joining us as we are in part 3 of our series Revelation subtitle is The Victory of the Beautiful Resistance, a series about what I think is one of the most often referred to and yet I think misunderstood books in what we call this collection of documents known as the Bible. One of the books, I think, for many, the most confusing of them all. And I think part of the reason why it's so often misunderstood, maybe mistreated, and kind of confusing is that we don't read it like it was written to be read, like the original audience would have read it and understood it. And one of the main reasons for that is the style of writing, which is what throws us, right? And we've been saying, as we've introduced this document, that it's an apocalypse. In fact, that is the first word of the document. We've been saying that John didn't actually write this document in English. He wrote in the most common language of his day, ancient Greek. And the very first word of the document is apocalypsis, which in their language meant unveiling, revealing, hence the name Revelation. But apocalyptic was actually a genre of literature that was characterized by exactly what you see in the book of Revelation, these fantastic just symbols and imagery, that a genre that flourished for about a 400-year period of time from 200 BC to 200 AD. And it was arguably the most popular style of literature of its day, which means that people knew how to read it. They got it. Cryptic though it was, and apocalyptic literature was often intentionally cryptic. They wanted to make you think. But when we open this document that seems just so weird and actually kind of unnerving to us, it was not weird or unnerving to them at all. And those who had first received this document, we call the book of Revelation, it would have been carried to them by a carrier beginning at Patmos and then to Ephesus and then Smyrna and Pergamum and so forth. And the courier would have brought this document, and the whole Jesus community would have sat down together in maybe a large room or someone's large home. And the whole thing would have been read out loud from beginning to end, probably by the courier, as everyone else just sat and listened to the whole thing. And then they would have discussed it. So this meeting went on for a while, right? They would have discussed it, and we've been saying like the images and the symbols are taken from so many different sources, from especially the Hebrew scriptures, but also current events and Greek and Roman mythology, symbols that I think often carry maybe multiple inferences and so forth. It would have been a very diverse group, and they would have begun to unpack what those symbols applied to or meant in their world. And that's the kind of literature it was. But more importantly, we've been saying that this document is a letter. It's a letter, of course, which is a written message from a specific sender to some specific recipients in a specific time and context. And the whole document, the whole thing, is the letter. It opens as a letter, it closes as a letter to 7 churches, and the whole thing is the letter. In other words, it was written to them, for them, and it meant something to them, a message that I believe is inspired by God to real people in real churches who are facing real adversity, real tribulation, which is the word that we often use that's translated from the Greek word thlipsis. It just means like adversity and suffering and struggle. And they're in it, and it's about to get worse. And God is saying something to them to help them through it. And its meaning to us is actually rooted in its meaning to them. And so the book opens with John, one of the original followers of Jesus, telling us how it all came about. The year is 95 AD, and the known world is ruled by Rome, and Rome is ruled by this guy, the Emperor Domitian, who prefers the title Dominus et Deus, translated Lord and God. And to declare this about him has become a test of loyalty in the empire, a loyalty to the emperor and a loyalty to Rome itself. John is on the island of Patmos, which is just off the coast of the Roman province of Asia, just off the coast of Ephesus, the ancient city of Ephesus, the province of that capital where he's lived for the last couple or 3 decades. And he's there in exile as the state is trying to shut him up and limit his influence. And he tells us that there he was on the Lord's Day, which is Sunday. He was there on the Lord's Day, and he was in the Spirit when he gets this vision of Jesus, who he describes as one like the Son of Man, a phrase that's taken from Daniel chapter 7. And Daniel has this vision of these beasts that are coming up out of the sea, and they're vicious, and they're destroying and devouring everything and everyone in their paths. And then a throne comes in, and the Ancient of Days is sitting on that throne, and one like the Son of Man comes in the clouds of heaven and receives from the Ancient of Days power and dominion and authority over all the nations and languages and peoples of the earth, and his dominion, his kingdom will last forever. And Daniel's like, I saw one like a Son of Man, but he's dressed like a high priest in a white robe with a gold sash around his chest, and he's walking among these 7 lampstands that John later tells us are these churches that he's writing the letter to, these 7 churches in the Roman province of Asia, and he calls them lampstands because they're the light of the world. What does a lampstand do? It holds the fire. It holds the light. And he's like, that's what you are. You're the lampstands. And so John writes this document to the lampstands, these 7 churches. And again, the whole document is the letter, but it begins with 7 specific messages for each one of these 7 churches who are facing, again, real pressure, real adversity. And John has the prophetic insight to see things are about to get worse. And in fact, the Jesus movement itself is facing a real threat. And the question comes, will the Jesus movement in the province of Asia actually survive? Will it survive? Will it survive this adversity? Will it be victorious? And will we? Will the Jesus movement in our day survive and be victorious? And Jesus has very specific, very real guidance and correction and encouragement for each one of these churches. Some of it comes on pretty strong because the threat is real. But then he ends each one of these messages with a call to conquer, to be victorious, to the one who is victorious, to the one who is victorious. 7 times to each one of these churches, he says that. Now, this word that we translate victorious is the Greek word or verb nikao. Anybody want to take a wild guess what word we get from that word? Nike, yeah, Nike, exactly. The brand, the shoe brand, victory, that's what it means, victorious. And that verb means, well, it means to subdue or to conquer, to overcome, to gain the victory. And in each one of these letters, it ends with a call to be Nike, to be like victorious. And each one of them, each one of those calls to be victorious is then tied to a promise that is taken from the end of the book of Revelation and the closing scene of the Revelation, the coming together of heaven and earth, the coming of the kingdom of God to the kingdom of this world. And he's saying basically to them, life in the kingdom of God, life the way you've always wanted it, the hope that you have, it's promised to the people who are victorious. But what does that mean? What does that mean? Here's how we ended last week. What exactly does it mean to be victorious? I want to be a winner. I want to be victorious. I want to see a victory. How do I get that? How do I do that? The victorious Christian life. Like, what is it? Obviously, it's not just limping along, barely making it through, hanging on for heaven while I try to carve out a little happiness for myself here on this earth. What does it mean to be victorious? And here's what's so interesting and powerful to me. Jesus does not answer this question the way we would like the question answered, the way preachers might often answer the question with like 3 practical steps, or maybe there should be 7, and maybe it should form a cute acronym like victory, V-I-C-T-O-R-Y. What does that spell? And like we'd be like, yes, that's the path to victory. That's what we would probably like for him to do. But instead, what Jesus does is he invites John and he invites those churches and he invites us into a vision of God's space, a view from above, you might say, an invitation into ultimate reality, to see all that has been and all that is happening and all that is about to happen from a completely different perspective. Revelation chapter 4. After this, after those 7 messages to the 7 churches, I looked and look. In fact, that word right there occurs dozens and dozens of times in the book of Revelation. Often we don't even translate that word into English because it's just kind of redundant. He uses it so much. He's like, look, a door. Look, look, a door is open in the heavens. Heaven here, not as some kind of distant, far off reality in a galaxy far, far away, but as a reality that's actually right here. It's just a doorway away. It's on Patmos. It's in this room. It's right here, a current and present reality. And there's a door, and we get to go in and see. And then he says, a voice. You know that voice? Remember the one that was speaking to me at first when we started this off and it sounded like a trumpet? Remember that voice? And that voice said to me, come up here and I will show you what must take place after this, or it could be translated with this or during this, at this same time. And John is being invited, and we're being invited behind the scenes. And we've said as we kicked off this series that part of the message of the book of Revelation is simply this: things are not as they seem. Things are not as they seem. And we're being taken like behind the scenes, behind the curtain, if you will, of all that has happened and all that is happening and all that is about to happen. And again, John's just going, look, look, look. Look, see, look behind the curtain. See that there's more to reality than meets the unaided senses. There's more to our current struggles than you can see with your eye. There's more to societal trends and geopolitics and global economics. There's so much more than meets the eye. It all looks so different than this. From the other side, look. Look, things in this world and things in your life are not as they seem. And at once, John says, like that, man, I was in the Spirit. And look, there it is again. And look, a throne. There's a throne that's before me in heaven, and someone is sitting on it. And what John and what we are first shown, like this is what's most important. This is the most important thing to know and to see about what's really happening behind the scenes. And what we are shown first is a view of a universe that is God-centered. A God-centered reality that the universe does not revolve around Rome or America, and it most definitely does not revolve around me and my needs and my wants and my struggles and my joys. It is a God-centered reality, a God-centered universe and a God-ruled universe. Hence the image of the throne, which is the most repeated image in the scene that follows. Everything that happens in the scene happens in relation to the throne. Things that happen surrounding the throne, from the throne, over the throne, in front of the throne, around the throne, before the throne. Everything is about the throne. It's all about the throne and the one who actually sits there. And it's this image of a God-ruled universe. In fact, God, throughout the book of Revelation, is most often referred to as the one who's on the throne. He's the one that's on the throne. He's the one that's ruling. There is a throne, he says, and someone is on it. Someone indescribable. And oh, by the way, it is not Domitian. It is not Domitian. It is not the ruling elite and nobility of Ephesus or Smyrna or Pergamum or Washington, D.C. or Silicon Valley or Wall Street, as much as they think, and it might look like they are on the throne. Nope, it's not them, or any of the gods whose temples dominated the landscapes of these cities or our cities. There is a throne, and someone is sitting on it. And John begins to paint this image, this picture taken from scene after scene after scene in the Hebrew scriptures. The moment in Exodus where the people of Israel are fleeing slavery in Egypt, and they go to meet their liberator God at Mount Sinai for the first time. And just the sheer presence of the creator of all things, the creator God, coming near to this mountain causes the physical world to react. And like the mountain is shaking and quivering, and there's lightning and rumbling and peals of thunder. Or the vision from Ezekiel in chapters 1 and 2, where Ezekiel sees the throne of God, and it's being carried by these four living beasts, and they are trippy looking, but they represent like all of created life, because they represent the lion and the ox and the human and the eagle, and there's this rainbow that emanates from behind the throne. Or the experience that Isaiah has, where Isaiah is invited into the temple and God is there on the throne, and there are these angelic beings with 6 wings, and they're covering their face and they're covering their feet in deference to the one that they keep saying is holy, 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 and Isaiah is sure he's about to die. And John is just pulling all of these images from all of these Hebrew scriptures, which, by the way, the Jewish background followers of Jesus in these communities, they would have known these stories and these characters and these plots and these quotes like we know episodes of Friends. Like this was their stuff, right? And so they were like, yeah, I get that and I get that. And so John begins to say, and the one who sat there had the appearance of jasper and ruby, which, by the way, is not an attempt to describe God. It's actually the opposite, an attempt not to describe what is indescribable, but incredibly just beautiful, and a rainbow that shone like an emerald encircled the throne, and then surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones. Other kings, other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders, and they were dressed in white robes, and they had crowns of gold, like gold wreaths on their heads. And then from the throne came flashes of lightning and rumblings and peals of thunder. And in front of the throne, 7 lamps were blazing. And these 7 lamps are the 7 spirits, or the 7-fold Spirit of God. And then in the center, around the throne, were 4 living creatures. And they were covered with eyes on the front and the back. And the first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth like a flying eagle. And John is just riffing. He's riffing Exodus. He's riffing Isaiah. He's riffing Ezekiel, the lion, the ox, the human, the eagle, all taken from Ezekiel's image. These 4 creatures that basically refer to or represent all of created life, all of animate created life. But he's changing it. He's changing these images and reimagining them. And then he morphs from that into Isaiah, where the 4 living creatures have 6 wings. This picture of just they're deferring to the one on the throne. And even their wings, this is weird, are covered with eyes. Like these creatures just have eyes everywhere. It's like one big eyeball. And the idea here is that they see everything. They see everything. Nothing is hidden from them. And yet, they can't take their eyes off the one who is on the throne. He is the object of their ceaseless wonder and fascination. The one who's on the throne is the one that gets all of their attention. And day and night, they never stop saying, because it's like they can't even help themselves, holy, holy, holy. And again, it is a statement of just utter deference to the absolute otherliness, the indescribableness, and the transcendence of this one who is on the throne, who they say is the Lord God Almighty. And that term Almighty is the Greek word pantokrator, which means he's the one who holds absolute power. He's got absolute power. He holds absolute sway. He's got all of the might in the universe. The one who was and who is and is coming. He's coming. And then whenever the living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to the one who sits on the throne and lives forever and ever, which is happening all the time, the 24 elders, remember those guys that were on the smaller thrones? They climb down off their thrones, they fall down before the one who sits on the throne, and they worship him who lives forever and ever. And then they take their crowns and they lay them down in front of the throne, and they say, "You are worthy. You are worthy, our Lord and God. Our Dominus et Deus, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power because you created it all. You are the brilliant mind and power behind it all. You created all things, and in fact, it is by your sheer will that they were created, and actually that all of us continue to have our existence." Now, again, this is being read out loud, right? And it's being discussed in these communities. They're sitting together and it's just being read kind of straight through like that. And the Jewish background Christians, they would have known these moments and these scenes from these different documents, and they would have been able to describe them for the benefit of other like non-Jewish background people who are sitting in the room who do not know the Hebrew scriptures like any Jewish background Christian would have known at the time. And then at the same time, some of these images would have brought to mind other things, like current images. For example, images from the imperial court. and Domitian's famed 24 lictors, his bodyguards. And everywhere the emperor goes, the 24 lictors go. And everywhere the emperor goes, the crowds shout, "Worthy, worthy, worthy, worthy." But then they would have all acknowledged, well, okay, so he has 24 lictors, but these 24 elders, these 24 representatives, they also seem that carry another meaning. And they would have discussed how, hey, there were 12 tribes of Israel, and there were 12 disciples of Jesus, and the 24 elders, possibly, maybe that represents all of the people of God, which means that they represent us. And in fact, as the apocalypse unfolds, it becomes more and more obvious that the number 12 and multiples of 12 just always represent God's people, all of God's people, and including us as well. And then someone might have said, yeah, Domitian's lictors, they're always dressed in scarlet robes. But these 24 elders, they're actually dressed in white, which is what priests would wear. All white with these gold wreaths on their head. And so they're like priests, and yet they're on thrones like kings, priests and kings. Is that us? Is John saying that they represent who we are in ultimate reality? But then notice what they do. Again and again and again, they climb down off of their thrones. And they fall before the one who is on the throne, and they take their crowns, all of their accolades, all of their earned glory, and they just set that down as instinctively. It's like coerced, it's not forced. It's like in the presence of the indescribable worthy one, they cannot help but to say, this isn't mine, this is yours. You are worthy. You are worthy because you created all things. There is a creator God who is holy, who is unlike and incomparable and other than anything else in all of creation. He has all the might. He is almighty. He is Lord and God, which kind of ends up making like Domitian's claim a little bit ridiculous, a little bit petty maybe, and maybe our claims at times to be like gods and goddesses of our own little worlds might make those look a little kind of petty and maybe even blasphemous as well, because there is one who is unimaginably glorious and creative and brilliant and powerful and wise, and he is on the throne. It's like John is saying, before anything else, like before these embattled, just beat up, minority, struggling Jesus communities in these cities in Asia need to know anything else, before we need to know anything else, before they or we need to see anything else, before we try to satisfy our curiosity about what happens next and like what about the end times, before anything else happens, it's like he's going, the first things first, we need a fresh vision of the center of reality. What does victory look like? How do we get it? How do we gain it? Well, we begin with a picture of a throne at the center of reality, with heaven and all of creation proclaiming holy and worthy to the one who is on this throne. But then the scene begins to change, and we're given a glimpse of someone who actually did conquer, someone who was victorious. But again, rather than just like giving us a straight answer to our question, how do we become victorious? John instead gives us this picture of what true victory actually looks like. And in this moment right here, this moment is like the biggest plot twist in the history of plot twists. You ready? Here's what happens next as he's looking. Then I saw in the right hand of the one who sat on the throne, I noticed that there's this scroll. He's got this scroll, and it's got writing on both sides sealed with 7 seals. Now, scrolls they all knew. Scrolls with seals they all knew. But this one was a little unusual in that scrolls don't normally have writing on the outside. And 7 seals, like that's a lot of seals. This is an important document. Something important is contained inside of it. And then I saw this mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, "Who is worthy? Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll?" And the answer comes back. No one. No one. No one, nowhere. The call goes out to the entire universe. This mighty angel has a loud voice, and there's no one. No one angelic or otherwise, living or dead. No one in heaven or on earth or under the earth. No emperor, no general, no prophet, no priest, no president. There is nobody. There is nobody. And the issue is not power or strength or willingness or desire. The power, the issue actually is worthiness. It's worthiness. No one has earned the right. No one is worthy. No one has proven themselves by their character and their action to be worthy to unroll this scroll. And John says, I lost it. I lost it. As I realized what was going on, I wept and I wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or even look inside of it. And can you relate? I mean, can't you relate at times just to looking around at the world and just the way it is? And have you ever wept because something is just so wrong? A loved one who's been taken before their time? Or have you ever just felt the broken-hearted weight, maybe a lot lately, of all that is messed up and wrong and broken and evil and not the way it's supposed to be? This isn't the way it's supposed to be. And you find yourself just longing for better, longing for something to make it right, but almost despairing, like wondering if it'll ever be, if it could ever come. And John hasn't been told exactly what's in this scroll yet, and neither have we yet, but he has this instinctive sense. Like, that scroll, that's it. Like, this is it. This is how it gets better. This is how the story comes back together again. It gets resolved. This is how all that is wrong becomes right and all that is sad becomes untrue, and no one is worthy to open it. No one is worthy to undo the seals and set it in motion. And John's like, I just lost it. I just lost it. I want that to be so badly. And then one of the elders, he said to me, now this is what John hears. One of the elders said to me, and he hears this as one of the 24 says, hey, bro. Hey, don't weep. Look, don't weep. Look. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He's Nike'd. He's been victorious. And he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. And this language, like the Lion of the tribe of Judah, is taken from a scene in Genesis chapter 49, where the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, Jacob, is saying to one of his sons, Judah, that from you will come a lion who will rule the world. The nations will obey him. And the Root of David, taken from Isaiah chapter 11, again, this idea of someone who will rule the nations. And both of these two phrases, Lion of Judah, Root of David, had actually become very common titles by John's day of the coming Messiah and this idea of a warrior king. A warrior king who will lead a messianic army in holy war to defeat the nations and establish his empire, the empire of Israel, over all of the nations of the earth. And John is like, of course, the Lion of Judah, the Root of David is conquered. He's got victory. Of course he's got victory. That's what's supposed to happen. Where is he? I want to see our hero. I want to see our champion. I want to see what Nike really looks like, because there's a lion, and man, do we need a lion right now. So that's what he heard. Look, the lion. But then as he turns, he says, here's what I saw. I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing in the center of the throne. I heard lion, I heard messianic warrior king, and then I turn around and I see a lamb that's been slaughtered for sacrifice. It's like, what? Okay, seriously, let me get this straight. So there's a scroll that somehow represents God's plan for making all things right. And then there's this question of worthiness. And the universe comes up blank, which is devastating. But then, hey, wait, good news. We have a champion. We have a lion. We have a warrior, we have a military hero, valiant and mighty, and he has conquered. He's been victorious. Sweet. Sweet, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for like the victorious military parade and the messianic army, and like show me some strength. Show me the lion. Our people on earth, our people in our cities are just getting beat up. Man, we need a champion to fight for us. And then I turn around and I see, what? A lamb? See, if a lion is a symbol of strength, a lamb is most definitely a symbol of weakness. This is why there are no sports teams who have a mascot of a lamb. Just doesn't happen. The Lake Forest Lambs, not going to happen. Lions, tigers, bears, maybe even rams, but not lambs. You will not see it happen. And this is worse. It's a slaughtered lamb. It's not just a lamb, it's got its throat slit and it's bleeding all over itself. Now, this was an image that everybody knew, Jewish background, non-Jewish background, because everybody had seen dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of sacrifices in their day, and they knew exactly what it looked like. As the sacrifice, the animal would be brought up to the priest, and the priest would reach out with a very sharp knife and slit the animal's jugular, capture some of its blood in a bowl, and then the animal would be quickly dispatched, killed usually with a crushing blow to the head, and then the blood would be offered as a sacrifice, the animal would be butchered, part of it would be offered as a sacrifice, and then everybody would sit down and eat a meal from what was left as if they were participating with the god or the gods themselves. They all knew what that whole thing looked and felt like. And here's a lamb that's covered with blood. It's slaughtered. It's got its own blood. It's been defeated. And yet somehow it's actually standing in the center of the throne, encircled like the one on the throne by the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders. And the lamb, John says, had 7 horns and 7 eyes. Now, horns throughout ancient literature, especially Hebrew scriptures, but elsewhere as well, horns were just a very common image of strength, of power. And 7, of course, is the number of completeness. So this lamb, slaughtered as it is, apparently has all strength. And then eyes are normally a symbol of wisdom or insight. But John goes on to say that this lamb's eyes are actually the 7-fold Spirit of God taken from Isaiah 11 and Zechariah 4. And we're going to jump into some of that in week 5. Don't miss week 5. But this lamb looks a little different, but it's slain. It's bleeding. And then the lamb gets up and goes up to the throne and takes the scroll from the right hand of the one sitting on the throne. And that act right there sets in motion this whole ripple effect of response and reaction, beginning with the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders who have up till this time been just entirely focused on the one who's on the throne. And now they fall down before the Lamb. And we're told now we get this new kind of image, like they've got 6 wings, but somehow they got a harp. And then there's a bowl, golden bowls with incense, which are the prayers of God's people. And this imagery is being taken right from the Levites in the temple in the Old Testament worship. And they fall down before the Lamb now, and they sing a new song. They sing a whole new song because something new has happened. Something new, something completely unforeseen and unforeseeable has happened, and they begin to say, you are worthy to the Lamb to take the scroll, to open its seals. You're the one who's worthy to set this in motion because you were slain. And with your blood, you purchased for God men and women from every tribe and language and people and nation. This 4-fold description of all of humanity that occurs 7 times in the book of Revelation, and you have made them, you have somehow formed this complete hodgepodge of the diversity of people into a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on earth. And John's taken us behind the curtain, this view from above of ultimate reality. Something new has happened. Something new has happened. The Creator God, the Almighty, that holy, transcendent one who is on the throne at the center of all creation, worthy because he created, has now revealed his true colors. And now we see him for who he really is in the Lamb who is worthy because he was killed, who is victorious because he was slain. And it is the biggest plot twist in the history of all plot twists. It is the central paradox in the book of Revelation, and frankly in the Christian journey itself, that the almighty creator God conquered by losing, by dying. That Jesus, the messianic hero, the lion, the root of David, triumphs somehow by vulnerably, willingly sacrificing his life for others because he loved them, even when they didn't love him. And they begin to say, you're worthy. You're the only one who, by right of character and action, has proven that they can handle what is about to happen. And then the ripple just begins to move out. Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands, 10,000s times 10,000s, which is a way in Greek of just going, you can't count it. This is their largest number, 10,000 myriad. They hadn't come up with Googleplex yet. That would come later. This is like myriads times myriads. In other words, there's just too many. There is this sea of heavenly beings, and now they begin to encircle the throne and the four living creatures and the elders. And in a loud voice, John's like, it was getting loud up in there. It was getting loud up in there. And they begin to say a line from a song that we often sing that without context sounds really weird. They begin to say, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the Lamb who is slain. What a weird thing to say. What a counterintuitive, absolutely upside down thing to say, and now you know. And now you know why it is sung and what it means, and perhaps you will never sing it the same way again. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise, this sevenfold attribution of just like complete worth, complete honor, complete glory, complete wisdom to the Lamb that was slain. And then the ripple goes out to the ends of all of creation, and I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and on the sea and all that is in them, and they all began to say, to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever. And the four living creatures said, yep, that about says it. Amen. And the elders fell down and worshiped. And this is the central vision of the revelation. In fact, I think it's the central vision of all of life. It's the vision behind the curtain, behind the veil of this earth. Things are not as they seem. Things are not as they seem. What lies at the heart of reality, there is a throne and someone sitting on it. And there is a Lamb who has upset the apple cart. And this vision shapes not only how we now begin to understand all that has happened and all that is happening, but all that is about to happen and everything else that will unfold in the book of Revelation and everything else that will unfold in our lives as the scroll opens must be seen through the filter of the throne and the Lamb. And when we look at life through that vision, that view of ultimate reality, there's some surprising, like mysterious, confusing things that actually become crystal clear. And one of them is this, that at the center of reality is one who suffers. At the center of all reality is one who suffers. When John says that he sees the slaughtered lamb standing at the center of the throne, he means that Christ, the Messiah's sacrificial death, that the Messiah dying on that cross is at the center of how we are to now understand God. And because it's at the center of the throne, which is an image of how God rules, a God-ruled universe, that this is how we're to understand how God rules and what it means that he rules. That the holy, transcendent God was never seen more clearly than on the face of Jesus, bleeding and dying on that cross, an image that John will never get out of his mind for the rest of his life. that God somehow through the Lamb has revealed himself as someone who suffers with, and in fact suffers for, suffers in the place of and on behalf of his own fallen, suffering creation. As Isaiah the prophet had said, there is going to be one who comes, a servant, who will offer himself like a lamb to the slaughter. Like a lamb to the slaughter, he will take upon himself all of our pain, all of our dysfunction, our brokenness, our disappointment, our disease. He will take it upon himself, and as it crushes him, it will be lifted off of us so that we can live free of it. At the center of reality, there is one who suffers. And because of that, at the center of reality, there is grace. At the center of reality, there is grace, amazing grace, a costly grace, and an invitation for all who suffer under the weight of their own, just like dysfunction and disappointment and character defects, an invitation to every single one of us to come. To come no matter who you are, like what you've done, how far you've strayed, how heavy that burden of shame is, to come, because at the center of reality, there's grace. There's an invitation for you. And the third thing that becomes really clear is that the way of victory is the way of the Lamb. The way of victory in this life is actually the way of the Lamb, that the lion is worthy because he is the Lamb. Like, that's it. That's the whole thing right there. I saw a meme, actually a number of different memes on the internet, that basically said he came first as a lamb, but he returns as a lion. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. I love that, because that's what I want. I want to follow a lion, not really a lamb. I want to be a lion, definitely not a lamb. I love the idea of him coming back as a lion. Except it's not true. It's not true. Throughout the book of Revelation, he's only the Lamb, right? Through the very end, as heaven and earth are joined together, and there in the new creation is the Lamb, still looking as he's been slain, covered in his own blood for us. He's the Lamb. And that's the punchline. That's like the whole punchline. And it's a bit of a sucker punch because we didn't see it coming. That Jesus triumphed and became victorious through like sacrificial, self-denying, self-giving, others elevating love and death. He gives himself for his friends. He gives himself for his loved ones. And he gives himself for his enemies. And those who will conquer in life with him are going to conquer the same way. We conquer the very same way. Now, this is not good news. This is not really good news, because seriously, who wants to be victorious in weakness? Right? Who wants to be victorious through suffering? How in the way is, all right, so sacrificial love and denying myself and forgiving my enemies and blessing those who curse me and doing for others what they will not do for me, even for the sake of people who might not even appreciate it. They're never even going to say thank you. In fact, they might even turn around and use it against me. Are you kidding me? In what world is that hashtag winning? And the answer is apparently in God's world, which is the real world, where things are not as they seem. Remember, the Lamb is not stupid. And it turns out he's not weak either. He's got 7 horns, which is a symbol of complete power. And he's got 7 eyes, with the symbol of complete wisdom and insight. But here is the secret, and it's a secret that we could not have ever guessed otherwise. The greatest power in the universe is the weakness of sacrificial love. The greatest wisdom in the universe is the foolishness of sacrificial love. He wins by sacrificing himself. We win by sacrificing himself. He overcomes the world by loving it to death, even his own. And we overcome the same way. Now, in a moment, we're going to celebrate communion, which I just think is the best way to end a moment like this, as an opportunity to come to, at the center of reality, there's grace. Like to come to this throne and receive grace, whatever grace you need, to lay down whatever shame you might carry. But then at the same time, maybe to declare our own allegiance to the Lamb, like wherever that's going to take me. That's going to be my way. And so I've asked Christian to come and lead us in that song that we sometimes sing, Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. And as we sing it today, I want us to maybe sing it in a fresh way, like knowing what the line is that we're singing, like as if we're joining with these 4 weird creatures covered with eyes and these 24 elders who are just always getting down off their throne and putting their crowns before the one who sits on the throne. It's like we're joining with this innumerable myriads of heavenly beings, declaring with all of our gratitude, whew, you are worthy. You are worthy, and it turns out you're like the only one who is, because you were slain, because you loved us that much, because you so willingly and lovingly gave up yourself by your blood to purchase men and women for God from every tongue and tribe and language and nation and form us somehow into this kingdom of priests to serve our God. Wow, you truly are the worthy one. And as we sing tonight, to maybe decide once again, that way, your way, it's going to be my way. So let's sing this together.
Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Worthy is the King who conquers the grave. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Worthy is the King who conquers the grave. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Worthy is the King who conquers the grave. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Oh God, you're worthy.
That on the night he was betrayed, Jesus took bread and he broke it and he told his followers, this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And so I want you to take this, the elements that perhaps I hope you've already grabbed. There's this tiny little layer that you peel up. And beneath it is this little wafer that represents Christ's body, this lamb who was slain for us. Let's take this together. And then we're told later in the meal, he took a cup. And he said, this cup is the blood of a new covenant, a new way for human beings to have a relationship with God. At the center of reality, there is grace. As you peel off this layer, let's take the cup together. God, we thank you for surprising love. We thank you for gobsmacked, did not see it coming, unpredictable. Who would have thought the Creator God, the Almighty One, would not avoid suffering, but step into it willingly to take it off of us? We thank you for that. We're here to declare that your grace is amazing. We will accept it into our own lives, and that your way is amazing, and we will follow you because you're worthy. I want to invite you to stand with us as the band leads us in this song, Amazing Grace.
Power of sin and darkness. that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Come on, sing it out. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You would lay down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. All right, now let's really sing it out. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Worthy is the King who conquers the grave. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Worthy is the King who conquers the grave. Come on. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Worthy is the King who conquers the grave. Worthy is the Lamb that was slain. Oh God, you're worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. Oh, and you would bear my cross. Oh, you laid down your life so I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. All that you've done for us.
Hey, you can be seated for just a second. So, there's a throne and someone's on it. And there's a lamb who's upset the apple cart, but there's a problem. There's a problem. You might say this is the problem. Like this is the mother of all problems from which all other problems emanate. God rules. Rules in the heavens. In God's space, uncontested. But man, it seems like evil rules here. And we feel it, right? We feel like just the horrific, heartbreaking effects of evil every day. And this raises a question, a problem. If God truly rules, then somehow, someday, some way, that rule, that goodness has to actually include all of creation, including this earth. It must pervade everything. Somehow, evil must be ended. And somehow, what is right must be restored. Somehow, the kingdom of God has to become the kingdoms of this world. But how is that supposed to happen? And what in the world is in that scroll? Don't you want to know? And the answer is, come back next week for part 4 of our series. Hey, before you guys take off, We'd love to hear from you if you're watching online or if you're in the room. If you got those Connect cards, we'd love to hear from you. Our guest, again, thank you so much for joining us. Just so glad you're here. Second, third, fourth time checking us out. Thank you for coming. We'd love to hear from you as well. We'd love to hear from everyone. So take a moment. You can drop those Connect cards in the offering baskets on the way out. Our guest services team will be holding baskets there. You can drop offering envelopes there, and you can take that guest services menu, that serving menu, that volunteering menu, and you can check off some ways that you can be a part of this over the next few months, and you can drop that whole menu in there as well, or you can sign up on our website. You can use the QR code that's on that menu too. And then finally, don't forget, next week, as our series continues, we've also got for our Saturday night folks, our trunk or treat going on out in the parking lot. It'll be right after our 5 p.m. meeting or gathering, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Plan on coming to that. If you're down for decorating your trunk, which I'm going to do, a bunch of you guys are going to do, the more the merrier. You can sign up for that either just by writing trunk or something on your Connect card before you throw it in the basket, or there's a table outside right there that you can sign up on there as well. That's all next week, and I hope to see you for part 4 of our series. God bless you guys. Have a fantastic week.